Hello, hello, and we are live. Hello, everyone. I'm Akshata Sawant. I'm joining today from Mumbai, India, and it's pretty late for me. It's around 10:30. Where are you guys joining in from? And what time is it for you? I'm sure you must be joining from different time zones, or you must be watching me later. So today again, I'm back with Anypoint Partner Manager. In the last stream, we spoke about Anypoint Partner Manager, like getting started with Anypoint Partner Manager, doing the basic configuration stuff, and seeing like what exactly Anypoint Partner Manager is. So today we're going to take it to the next level. We also have a special guest with us, who is kind of the creator, everything behind the Anypoint Partner Manager. Before that, I'll wait for you guys to join in. Yes. Do drop me hi in the comment section if you're joining me. Let me know where you guys are joining me from. What time is it for you? Hello, Alex. Oh, it's noon for you. Your lunchtime. Great. Let me reveal our special guest. We don't have to reveal it because I've already mentioned the description. So let me bring up Vijayan. Hello, hi Vijayan.
Hey Akshata. Hey everyone.
How are you doing?
Very good. How are you? How's everyone?
Yeah, I'm doing good. It must be early morning for you, right? I mean, beginning of your day, kind of.
Yeah, 9 o'clock. Can't complain.
Not bad.
Yeah.
Yeah. Great. So Vijayan is director of project management. He's focusing on Anypoint Partner Manager, and he's the person behind Anypoint Partner Manager. So all your queries regarding APM, just shoot today. We can get them all covered. Okay. With that, let's get started. Um, yes, Vijayan, would you like to add something about Anypoint Partner Manager?
No, I think I'm excited. So today is going to be a session where we are going to be focusing more on how things work, like getting more into hands-on kind of
Mm-hmm.
thing. And in the past demos, obviously, Partner Manager is a complex product with a
Yeah.
lot of moving parts. So today we're going to make it more focused towards the developer community and kind of walk you through how some of the different aspects of configurations and
Mm-hmm.
deployments and monitoring, mapping,
Okay.
and such things work. So I hope
Amazing.
the dev community will find it useful.
Yeah. So, an interesting story, like the fun fact kind of thing. Until last month, I used to think that Anypoint Partner Manager it is something for only for partners to onboard some partners and all, and it has absolutely no connection with the developers. So there is nothing for developers. And I was so wrong until you explored, like you introduced me to Anypoint Partner Manager, what it is and what it actually does. And there is so much to cover for developers and how no code, low code thing impacts and like the no code, low code features as well. So in the last stream, like I'm actually spoken or I showed about basic configuration. But today we are definitely going to take it to the next level, kind of deep dive, a true deep dive session, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So the stage is yours. You can share your
Sure.
screen and we can get started.
Okay. All right. So I'm going to be bringing up the screen. I'm going to be sharing my
Okay.
whole screen here.
Yes, I can add it.
Oh,
Hmm. Yes.
does it look okay?
Yeah.
Brilliant. Okay, so we are going to be kind of just the initial couple of minutes. We'll use some slideware to set the context and the stage of what we are going to see in the next 50-ish minutes. So obviously, kind of, I may be as a product manager, I may be talking about some future forward-looking statements. I'm going to be trying to stay away from doing it for the context of today's conversation. But just wanted to flash this in case if I do talk about any forward-looking statements. If you're representing a customer or if you're a customer, please make your purchasing decisions based on capabilities that are available today. With that out of our way, it's going to be a very simple version of the Power Manager demo that you probably have ever seen. Just for those that have no familiarity with Anypoint Power Manager, we'll just kind of give an introduction
Introduction.
to what the product does. with some live demo, and you can feel free to drop your questions as you kind of listen through the demonstration. All right.
Mhm.
So coming to the introduction of Partner Manager, and I think Akshata kind of made a very good point. Maybe kind of the naming of the product or something we need to take some
Yeah.
learnings from that. But with all that out of our way, and this statement, like this phrase, composable enterprise application network, is not something that is new to the people, especially who are on this call, right? It is more of how MuleSoft, as a leading integration platform, helps customers to build a composable enterprise integration fabric using API-led connectivity approach, which
Mhm.
basically brings all the internal systems, applications, and data sources like your Salesforce, your SAP, NetSuite, or your warehouse management systems, transportation management system, HR, financial models, like whatever you name it. Like I think there are some statistics that say an average organization has 900 plus different systems. So this is all about
Yeah.
how MuleSoft enables seamless integration and composability of those internal systems and applications, which stay within the four walls of a given enterprise. But then, as we all know, no enterprise is independent, right? If you're walking into a Walmart store and you find millions and zillions of products, and Walmart doesn't necessarily manufacture those products, right? So they buy those and source those products from uh, mm, one of the thousands of suppliers that they get those products from. Like your beauty products come from L'Oreal, your FMCG products come from companies like Unilever and Procter and Gamble. So they have to basically interact and work with those suppliers. And each of those suppliers, they have to get orders from not just Walmart, they have to get orders from Amazon, they have to get orders from Target, they have to get orders from Best Buy.
True.
And each of these organizations, they have a dependency with logistics companies that actually move those kind of big shipments using trucks, cargo ships, and um, flights, cargo flights, etc. So every organization has a lot of workflows that are dependent on interactions and integrations with external trading partner ecosystem. And while our proven methodology of API-led connectivity approach helps organizations to interconnect systems and applications within their four walls of the organization, Anypoint Partner Manager is basically the response or the solution that they would be using to extend their composable enterprise application network with their trading partner ecosystem. So whether it's Walmart sending an order to Unilever or Procter and Gamble, or whether it's Bose getting orders from Best Buy or Amazon, or whether it is a transportation company like JB Hunt or UPS getting a shipment request from one of these manufacturing or retail company to move a shipment from, let's say, their warehouse into a retail store. So any and all integration or interaction between one enterprise with their business partner ecosystem goes through what is popularly known as electronic data interchange, or EDI, protocols or standards. And partner manager is basically the solution that enables that kind of interaction between organizations. So with that introduction to the partner, and this should help people understand where this product basically fits in the broader or in the grand scheme of things. Um, Moving on to kind of a bit of technical details of what the product actually offers. So when we talk about interactions between enterprises, we are talking about exchanging transactions like orders or invoices, shipment requests, shipment responses, and things of those nature using popular EDA standards like X12 or EDIFACT. And also, organizations are, while EDIFACT and X12 are the most widely used method of exchanging business transactions, there are also organizations using XMLs, CXMLs, or JSONs and CSVs, and other custom message formats as well. So if you're a supplier and you want to earn the business of hundreds of customers, you want to be open to supporting different varieties or different formats of messages, and also different and these messages get exchanged through different transport protocols, right? So the
Yep.
vertical bar that you see here is basically the message formats, and the horizontal arrows that you see here are the transfer protocols through which those messages get exchanged between organizations. So Partner Manager as a product supports XML, Edifact, XML, JSON, and CSV, and you can configure Partner Manager to uh, exchange those transactions using one of these protocols. And I think in the last Twitch stream that Akshata did, she covered a bit of
Yep.
how you configure kind of endpoints, HTTP endpoints, and
Endpoints.
potentially using API Manager to manage those endpoints, to apply policies and whatnot. Basically, bringing a whole new experience of managing these B2B transaction exchange, not just using traditional protocols like FTP or SFTP, but also through some modern protocols with API management baked into it. So there
Yeah.
is a lot of
And just
yeah. Go ahead.
sorry, Vijay,
Yes,
just a
yes, I
question.
know.
So
Sure.
they also support like the API kind of transactions, right? API
Hmm.
methods and API calls basically via HTTP, HTTPS.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
It'll be an asynchronous call. Like it's not like
Mm-hmm.
you can send an order and get an order confirmation in a synchronous fashion, but it'll more of
Mm-hmm.
be fire and forget kind of a pattern where your customers can call an API to send order, and then you can
Order.
respond back using an outbound HTTPS call after the order information is uh, created and confirmed in the backend system uh, to
Okay.
confirm the order acceptance.
Okay. That sounds good.
Yeah. Okay, so what we are going to be doing, like we are going to take a very realistic use case. In the previous Twitch stream, we looked at how to configure HTTP-based endpoints, and here, and I think there are a number of demos that we have published over the past several months that covers AS2 and some of the other protocols. What we are going to be doing now is just setting the context of the demo before doing the actual demonstration. So we're taking a fictional company called Mythical Supplier. You can assume them as a company like a Unilever or a Bose or
Hmm.
a Driscoll's or a Dole, like that sells products to a wide variety of customers. And we are assuming that they use SAP as their as their ERP where orders get created, and they have Slack where they get notifications when orders are created or when there are exception scenarios. And they have a process API that orchestrates the calls between the system APIs. And they do have kind of a wide variety of customers across different geographies that basically send orders in different formats. Like some of them send the order information in Excel, some of them do send in Edifact, some send XMLs and JSON and CSVs. And Partner Manager basically exposes endpoints to get those data through different formats and protocols, does the validation, transformation to convert the incoming data that is coming in different formats into a canonical or a backend application specific format. So you can either convert it to a JSON or a custom XML or a CSV and send it to the backend. So that information gets into the process API to basically orchestrate the order creation process. So this particular example, I think we have done a number of demonstration, and we have also recently published uh, how this setup is done in one of the recent videos that we have published in MuleSoft videos that you can watch that covers a number of different aspects. For the context of today's demonstration, I'm going to be kind of walking through what it takes to onboard a new trading partner right into the system, and how the whole experience works, and this will help everyone understand the low codeness of the product and the whole
Hmm.
the consistency in the developer and onboarding experience. So we are taking, and again, like I'll make it very simple, right? We're not talking about anything about EDI today. This is a customer that wants to send purchase orders in an XML format, and that XML order needs to be converted into an internal JSON format that Mythical has defined. So we'll see how we onboard this new customer called Circuit Express, and just coming up with a random name. I'm running out of ideas to because I've used a number of things. But so this is our customer that we are going to be onboarding today. So they're going to
Yep.
send in an XML purchase order through an SFTP connection, and we that order is going to be sent to SAP, where it gets created, and we have a mocking process in the process API that automatically returns a purchase order acknowledgement. In the real world, it
Mm-hmm.
is actually something that's going to come from SAP when the order goes in, and we have enough quantity of the items that they are asking for, and all the business rules have to be met. But for the context of the demonstration, we are actually having a mocking or a mimicking service that sends out an outbound purchase order acknowledgement that will go back to the partner.
Mm-hmm.
So that's going to come as a JSON from the backend, and we are going to be converting that into into an XML that the customer wants the data to be in. So that's what we're going to be seeing. And just to kind of double click or zoom in on the particular use case that we're going to see, leaving aside all these EDI customers out. So we have Circuit Express, who is our new customer that we're going to be onboarding. They're going to drop in a purchase order XML file in an SFTP location
Mm-hmm.
in this folder. And Partner Manager is going to have endpoints that connect to that folder using a credential that we are going to be configuring to pick up the file in at a particular frequency that we're going to be setting in Partner Manager. And that XML is going to make its way into Partner Manager, and we know it's coming from this partner, and it is a purchase order XML, and we're going to be kind of leveraging our message flow routing configuration that is going to tell that, hey, if you get a PO XML from this customer, apply this data view transformation to convert it into our internal JSON purchase order format.
Jason.
And once we
Yep.
have that JSON, it's going to also have the routing information in the message flow configuration that is going to tell,
Mm-hmm.
hey, if you once you convert that into a JSON, call this process API to hand off that message. And that responsibility of calling the system API to create the order in SAP is basically in the process and system layer. And we
Okay.
are going to be getting an acknowledgement transaction back. Um, and that is going to come. So it's going to be an outbound transaction where we get a JSON from the backend, and we know that when it goes to Circuit Express, we need to convert that into an XML. If it goes to one of these other partners, it needs to be converted into X12 or Edifact or another JSON or CSV. So it is all kind of converting that application message into a partner-specific message. So here it's going to become a XML, and we are going to be dropping that in another folder in that same SFTP server, right? So that is essentially what we are going to be looking at. And I know there are some specific naming conventions within Partner Manager that may be a little confusing for
Yep.
beginners. Um, so we're going to be talking about these four things very often. And if you're a developer and if you're going to be working on a Partner Manager project, you're going to be needing to know what these are, like, to make it easy to understand. So if you look to create an endpoint or a message type in Partner Manager, it is going to prompt you, hey, are you going to create a receive from partners endpoint or a targeted host endpoint? So that may be a kind of a new thing that will
New
require
thing.
some using to get used to that. So this
Yeah.
basically, so what is coming from external partners into Partner Manager is called as receive from partners
Let's
message
see.
type or endpoint. And when it goes through an inbound translation and is going to get handed off to a backend process as an inbound transaction, it is called as targeted host. And when
Hmm.
a backend system, let's say an order gets fulfilled and then there is an invoice data that needs to be sent, so that is called as source at host. And then when it eventually becomes a message that needs to be sent out to partners, it is going to basically, we call it as send to partners message type or endpoint. So something that any developer that will be working on Partner Manager will eventually has to learn. And I think
Yeah.
once you do your first project, you will know what each of those naming conventions are.
Yeah. I think initially they sound a bit confusing. I mean, though their meanings are like quite literal, though I mean,
Yeah,
still it's like it's a bit
yeah,
confusing. But once you get that hands on, it gets
hmm,
quite straightforward.
yeah,
So there's one
yeah,
question from Sarah. So let me pop
hmm,
it up. Can you
sure.
guide us on when it is more effective and efficient to use EDI connectors only versus using Anypoint Partner Manager managing EDI transactions?
So I would say if you are building a Mule application using just the EDA
Mhm.
connectors, you can accomplish like from a functional standpoint, or you can accomplish like everything that you are able to from Partner Manager.
Partner
But
manager.
uh, you will not get out of the box visibility. Like oftentimes the B2B transactions are subject to auditing, right? Every year end, auditors come in and ask like,
Mhm.
hey, can you show the data that came from this customer for this PO number? And you need to have
Yeah.
the ability to search for a PO number or search for anything. And also, Partner Manager has transaction replay. If something goes wrong, you have a button that you can click to reprocess transactions. If you are doing it without Partner Manager, you're going to be um, you have to build all of those framework yourself, which requires a lot of engineering and development effort, and that is going to cost a lot of money. The other
Absolutely.
thing is if you're using the EDA connectors, and obviously as people that have used the EDA connectors in Mule, they know what it takes to configure an EDA connector, right? So
Connector.
there are
Yeah.
different validation rules. There are different things like, for example, delimiter characters. Partner A may want tilde as a segment terminator. Partner B may want asterisk as a segment terminator. And this is all over the place. And Partner Manager provides an easy way of configuring those things at a partner level or even at a document type level. And if you have to do that in a Mule application using EDA connectors, you would have to create hundreds of connector configurations in a Mule application. And every time you have to make a change, or if you have to onboard a new partner, you're looking at making application changes and redeploying them. And as your trading partner ecosystem grows, obviously it is going to be very hard to manage from an operational standpoint. So there are a
Yeah.
number of such things, and I think we will kind of know more of that as we go through this demonstration shortly.
True. Cool. Then let's jump over to Anypoint platform.
Yes. I'm going to be stopping the presentation for a moment while I'm logging into a few
Sure.
systems. I need to look up some
Absolutely.
passwords, obviously, which I was supposed to do earlier. Just give me a second.
Hello. Hi, Edgar. Hi, Hima Bindu. I'm glad there are people still joining in from like India and all over the places. If you guys have any questions, if you're excited about new partner manager release, because there's so much coming, there's so much in pipeline as well. That's going to make it like more easier and more user friendly and more low code, no code. Also, today's demo, Vijayan, it's going to be completely no code, low code, right? I mean, we're just going
Mhm.
to have focus on the configurations on any point platform, right?
Yes. Yep.
Okay. And how about the data weave part? Like, I was actually curious about it. So, do we write the scripts as well, or like how do we load the scripts?
We will talk about that. Like, I'm going to go through the full process of how this works
Sure.
end to end. But like I
Yeah.
said earlier, it is going to be focused more on XML to JSON, JSON to XML,
Yes.
just so that people
Mm-hmm.
understand and follow the framework. And
Yep.
we probably will do something that focuses more on EDI transactions as a follow up. So obviously, I think we have to do this quite a few number of times so that we can talk about everything that the product has to offer. Okay.
Amazing.
Okay. So I think I have gotten everything that I needed to run this. So hopefully I'll share my screen again. Okay. So we know we are onboarding this new customer called Circuit Express, and they're sending
Just a minute,
PO.
Vijayan. Are you sharing your screen?
Yeah. Are you not seeing it?
Yeah, I can see it now. Sorry, it was from my side.
Okay. You were able to see previously, right?
Uh,
While I was talking.
yes, I was able to see
Okay.
previously.
Okay. Are we good to proceed?
Yes, yep.
Okay.
We can go to
So
any
okay.
points platform.
Sure. Okay. So I am in the Anypoint platform, which all of you are very familiar. So Partner Manager is part of the management center, and it
Mm-hmm.
is available in all the business groups. And once you navigate into Partner Manager, you're basically taken into your organization's profile. and you can also switch between environments here, like just like how you are able to from runtime manager or API manager or other parts of the Anypoint platform. So here it's an environment where, as I said earlier, it's already having some integrations built for some of the other EDI and non-EDI partners. So a lot of these configurations are in place, and we are going to be focusing on what it takes to onboard this new partner and start exchanging transactions with them. Uh,
Okay.
so what I'm going to do is I'm going to first kind of define this purchase order XML message that we are anticipating to be coming from Circuit Express, right? Let's assume that this is a custom XML specification that this customer has provided, or if you have a generic XML that multiple partners are sending, you don't have to create one message type for each partner, but you would basically you should be ideally reusing the same message type that you have created earlier for all of your partners. So obviously reusability is one of the number one values that Partner Manager provides. So let's go into this. So I think I did a decent job in explaining what these four things mean, right? So we are setting up this XML that's coming from Circuit Express. So selecting that, I have this is going to be an XML, so you will select that. And I'm not importing any XSD here. That's optional. If you want to do that, we will perform an schema validation. So here I'm going to skip that. I'm going to call this as, let's say, circuit PO XML. So I'm giving it a name, like just like how when you're developing a map in DataWeave, you have to give a source message type and you have to define a target message type. This is you can uh, think of this as something along those lines. And then you would be seeing that Partner Manager is asking you to specify a reference mapping. What that means is if it's an EDI data like an Xrol or Edifact, we know where to get the sender and receiver ID information from. But
Yeah.
when we are dealing with custom defined message specification like an XML, this is something that the Circuit Express has defined. So it's
Yeah.
not a globally accepted standard where we can go to a particular XML tag and fetch the sender ID from. So this mapping is basically a guidance for Partner Manager to extract, to identify who the data is coming from, right? So for that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually uh, so you will
Mhm.
see in the documentation how to build this reference mapping to
Okay.
extract the information about the partner. So I have built a data view map, which I'm going to just show how it works in Playground. You can build it in you can build it in Studio as well. So it's basically kind of I need to populate a partner reference ID, which is the key thing. So here I have this sample XML file that I got from Circuit Express. It has the headers and the purchase order tags, and then the purchase order contains multiple line items of different items and different quantities. So, but then like right now I'm at a stage where I need to guide Partner Manager on where to get the partner information from. So it is basically in this field. So this is where we get the information about who the partner is in this particular data. So that is the mapping. So here I'm mapping the buyer to the partner reference ID and the seller, which is Mythical, who is my company, as the reference ID for the host. This is optional. So if you are having multiple lines of business and you have Mythical US, you have Mythical Canada, you have Mythical India, and you want to route the orders going for US into SAP and you want to route the orders going to a different system for a different line of business to a different target system. So it's more of how we guide Partner Manager to get the correct information from. And then you also can kind of assign a business key, which can be something like a PO number. So in this example, what I'm going to do is let's call this as Mule
Yeah.
001 as the kind of the PO number. I'm going to be putting that in the purchase order number field as well. Uh, and then you also have the ability to define some custom attributes like, hey, I want to extract the PO number from the payload and I want to extract the email address of the buyer when we process these transactions so that those fields become kind of easily searchable if you want to search for a particular PO number or all the orders coming from a particular email address. And there is also a way in which you can extract even the incoming file name if you're getting the data from SFTP or FTP or AS2 protocols. So we are making a variable available within the processing time in the runtime that you can use to get the file name. So since this is playground, we don't have this variable initialize. I'm just commenting it out. But you now see that this output is basically telling, hey, this is coming. This is an order coming from Circuit Express. So what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be putting that um, a reference mapping that we just looked at as the mapping here, right? So now we just created this new message type.
Um,
So if you, yeah,
just a minute. So we just save the data view file. I mean, just the data view thing as a DWL file, and then we are importing it on Partner Manager, right?
correct. Yeah, so I'm
Yeah.
just looking at what we imported. So you can see that Partner Manager was
Uh-huh.
able to decode that data view mapping and tell you that, hey, whenever we process a message of this type, I'm going to be extracting these fields and making them available for search, right? And let's now create the purchase order acknowledgement also. And
Okay.
so the attributes mapping is required only for defining the source message types. So here it's
Yeah.
a target message type. So you just need to give it a name. So
Name.
I'm going to
Okay.
be naming it as circuit POAC XML and save it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So that's basically what you have to do. And all these attributes like the purchase order number, file name, and everything, it's all already defined because the same attributes are used for the EDI messages and JSON messages and CSV messages. So you are
Yeah.
basically using the same attributes so that no matter what transaction type these messages
Mm-hmm.
are coming, you're able to search across the entire transaction spectrum.
Okay.
Um,
While we are still here, there's
mhm,
just one question in the audience from Sarah.
mhm.
So, are the message type definitions noted in the technical documentations? We do
Yeah,
have them in the technical docs, right? I mean,
yeah, we do have
that's
them.
where
Mhm.
yeah.
Yes.
I'll also
Yeah.
post a link to the technical documentation if you're interested. All the naming conventions and everything there. You can just
Mhm.
get started.
Yeah. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, and also while we are here, right? So we know that this transfer data needs to be sent to the process API, right? Because we already have these other partners live,
Mm-hmm.
so all those endpoints and message types have already been defined. So you don't have to repeat the same thing over and over whenever you're onboarding a new partner. So, for example, here, kind of if I search for the process API here, you will see that there is this target process API. So this is the endpoint of this is the detail of this process API, right? That we have already configured, and you can also see that this particular endpoint is actually used in 20 message flow. So you have orders coming in different standards and formats from different customers, and you can actually, given that B2B transactions are going to be exchanged with hundreds of partners, right? And you have endpoints, and over a period of time, you're going to add and onboard new partners over multiple months, and suddenly you're looking back and you have this endpoint used in hundreds of message flows. And this basically helps to understand the dependency. Like if you're making a change, you know exactly what impact you're potentially going to make, right? So it helps to make informed decisions when making any maintenance and things of those nature. And so that's basically what you do for this onboarding here. I'm going to be going into the partner. So this is where we will be now creating Circuit Express as a partner. So you can
New
create
partner.
a partner who is an end partner, or in the B2B world, there are a lot of VANs and 3PLs that act as intermediary. So you get data from
Mhm.
a VAN on behalf of multiple partners. So you can create and manage such connections using the third party connection profile. So I'm going to be creating uh, this partners. So we know what their name is,
Yeah.
Express, and
Express.
they don't have any external or identifier. So, but we will have an internal identifier, which will be basically uh, here we looked at this sample data that we got from them. So this is what they are going to send in their data. Even though I'm
Mhm.
naming the customer as circuit space express. It's more of a user-friendly name, but the actual data representation of this partner is going to actually mention circuit hyphen express. So that is what we are extracting here into the partner reference identifier. So you need to basically put that here. So when a message comes into Partner Manager, when that XML comes into through the SFTP connection, and Partner Manager first applies this transformation to get this thing, and then this information is going to be used to look up who this identifier belongs to, and then it's going to say, hey, this ID belongs to Circuit Express. This can be a random number, or it can be a dunce number, it can be anything, like whatever the
Okay.
customer chooses to put here. And you can
Mhm.
also kind of, it's more of a cosmetic thing. You can kind of put their logo, for example, if you
Yeah.
want to look, make it more appealing, and you can also add their oops, I didn't expect it to be,
Basically making it fancier.
yeah. Anyways, I think I'll skip it in the interest of
Yeah, that's
time. I thought
fine.
I resized it.
Yeah.
And you can also add their um, contact information, whether it's business or technical contact. Maybe put their address and other information,
Mhm.
and save them so that they actually you have them easily available, and you can also call the partner API to get that information if you want to automate some email communication with them for any error that may have happened in the system. So in everything that you are able to do this, there is an API that you can do to create those configurations and also to read those configurations as well. So now we have created the profile, and now we are going to be creating the endpoint through which we are picking the data from. So as we mentioned earlier, it's going to be coming through an SFTP connection. So I'm going to be creating a Circuit Express. Let's say we are going to create an Express to specifically get the PO XML from them. And you would, so this is where I mean, I know most of us use the SFTP connector in Mule application. So under the cover, Partner Manager uses the same thing. But here we are not dragging a SFTP connector and configuring the connection profile, because in the B2B world, you are going to be interacting with multiple uh, trading partners, and it will be very hard to manage them using a Mule application to create one SFTP connection for each customer and then configuring those things. So this is where the low codeness of Partner Manager comes into play, right? All of those complexities have been abstracted from developers, so you just need to fill in a form, and everything else gets taken care automatically by the product. Um, so I'm just going to be putting in the credential for that SFTP server. And what I'm going to be doing is I'm actually logged into this SFTP server here. Let's create a folder for Circuit Express, and let's create these two folders. Like this is to Mythical, and there's going to be a folder for from Mythical.
But
So the inbound orders are going to come through this to Mythical folder, right?
mhm.
And I'm going to be putting that so we can configure how frequently you want to kind of poll
Poll.
this location. I'm going to make it 30 seconds so that we don't have to wait. That's the lowest you can put. Like you can create an endpoint with like 1 second and bombard the system. So there are uh, some few things that are built into the product. And here you are going to be defining whether you're expecting to receive an EDI or a non-EDI data. If it's an
Mhm.
EDA data, it's pretty simple, right? We can easily identify whether it's external or artifact, and we can easily identify the sender and receiver. So if it's a non-EDI, you have to specify that. So there are two things. So you can either associate a particular endpoint to a message type, or you can leave it. It's an optional thing. If you leave it, the file name that you're dropping into the SFTP location should start with the message type. So we do a substring before the first underscore and use that as the message type when routing the data into the system. So let's not worry about it. So anything that is coming through this endpoint that we are configuring is going to be a circuit PO XML. So remember, this was the message type that we just created a couple of minutes back. So you will select that. So anything coming through this folder is always going to be a PO XML coming from Circuit because it's a partner specific endpoint and you know what data is coming. And you can also optionally select if you don't have a place in the incoming file where you're extracting the partner identifier from. You can default the partner identifier here. But in the example that we have here, we are able to identify the partner information from a field within the payload. So we don't have to use that functionality. So let's say we want to pull the data for any file starting with order and ending with .xml, right? So you would probably, if you are also expecting a different type of data through the same folder, you can create multiple endpoints with different file name patterns and associate those endpoints with those specific message types. So I'm just creating that information here. So if you recall, we have kind of inputted, we have configured a few credentials into the system. We don't store the credentials within Partner Manager. So they are actually stored in Anypoint Secrets Manager because of security reasons. So we take the security of our customer configurations and sensitive information very seriously. So you will see a Partner Manager secret group here. So you will see a bunch of different configurations here. So it's all automatically handled by Partner Manager. So all the passwords and everything is basically stored in this secret group.
Secret manager.
So
But
while we are
suppose,
here, mhm, yeah,
sorry, what if someone doesn't have access to secret manager?
not every Anypoint customer has access to it.
Okay.
So yeah, it is a standard thing, and this is all automatically created by the product itself. So it's
Huh.
nothing that the customer should kind of directly worry about it. It is taken care and handled by Partner Manager itself.
Nice.
Okay, so now let's also create an endpoint to deliver the purchase order acknowledgement XML. So here it's going out to the partner. So we selected the send to partners and SFTP. So let's call this as POAC XML, right? And it's going to the same server, it's the same username and same password. And now, as we know, we have to drop this acknowledgement file into this folder, right? And here, these things are very well documented in the product. So you can basically assign, construct your file name to match what your customer wants. So let's say you can either use the property placeholder called doc type, which basically puts that POAC XML as the prefix, or if you want to, let's say, use this, right? And then the sender, and you can also build the timestamp. And since this is not an EDA data, I'm going to be putting in the order number as a business key. Uh, so the business key is basically the order number or whatever you are assigning in your reference mapping. So, and this is going to be an XML file. So I'm going to be putting XML, or there is also a property for automatically setting the extension based on the content type of the output message. So now I'm hard coding it to .xml, right? So saving this. So we have the endpoints for incoming orders and outgoing acknowledgement already created. The next step is to basically create a message flow, right? So message flow is where you basically input the actual transformation map to convert the XML data into a JSON or EDA data into a JSON or XML or whatever it is. So you will select this option, new message flow. So we're going to be creating a new message flow to receive something from a partner. So it's inbound message flow coming from Circuit Express. So you select that as, and then you are prompted to select the partner for whom you are creating the message flow. So you can search for Circuit
Circuit example.
Express and select it. And now you are basically presented with a wizard where you need to make 4 choices. The first choice, how you're expecting the data to be coming from. And we just created that endpoint for the data coming from Circuit Express, the PO XML coming from this folder. So you select that. And the next thing is what is the message type. So we all know it is going to be this circuit. Like I keep repeating the circuit word too often, and being an electrical engineer, it brings some of those memories from the college days back. Uh,
Yeah.
that's okay. So, and the next step is, so we know that we have a purchase order XML message here, and we have to convert that into the internal JSON format.
Jason.
So this is where we have this PO XML to PO JSON. So it's a
Jason.
standard data view map that you guys know how to build. I'm not going to go too much into that. So you build that in Studio or Playground or VS Code or wherever you want to build it, and
Mm-hmm.
bring that data view file so that it gets dynamically applied to the transactions coming from the partner after it's deployed. And the next step is kind of obviously this is going to be producing a purchase order JSON message. So you select what the translated message type is. And the last step is, what do we do with the translated JSON? We need to send that to the process API, right? That eventually is responsible for calling the SAP system API to create the
Mm-hmm.
order. So you select that endpoint. So it's already there, it's deployed, and it's used by 20 message flows. And now it's going to be used in 21 message flows once we get this in, right? So now you have pretty much everything. So the data is coming from this SFTP location, which is this, and then it is circuit PO XML data, and then you're applying this transformation map, and you're handing off the translated data to this API, which has a whole of a lot of business logic to create the order in SAP eventually. So with all this in play, I'm going to be clicking deploy. So what this is going to, and I'll initiate the deploy and then explain what happens behind the scenes. Inbound PO XML through SFTP. So just adding a comment and then
Mm-hmm.
acknowledging that you want to deploy it. So what happens behind the scenes is, so this is an environment that is configured to deploy to CloudHub. So we also had a recent demo that was published that talks about how to configure deploying to runtime fabric in an AWS EKS cluster.
Yeah.
So what? So now we have just initiated this deployment. So what is going to happen is if you go from here to the
Runtime.
runtime manager, you'll basically see a bunch of applications already deployed. Some of them are deployed by partner managers, some of them are deployed outside of partner manager. So uh, so anything that starts with B2B hyphen, like there are also other non-partner manager applications here. So you will see an application called Document Processing Service that is responsible for applying all these data view transformations and EDI mapping and everything. So that
Mm-hmm.
is one of the kind of workhorses of the whole thing, that taking care of all the routing, transformation, validation aspects. And you will also see a bunch of inbound HTTP, inbound SFTP, and these apps. The recommendation is to reuse AS2 and HTTP endpoints so that you don't have too many endpoints deployed, because each configuration of an AS2 and HTTP inbound endpoint gets deployed as a separate application, but you can absolutely reuse the same endpoint configuration across multiple partners and multiple flows. All the routing and dynamic transformation is all automatically handled by the product. So you now see that suddenly this application went from a started state to the updating state,
Uploading.
right? So it is the inbound SFTP application. Uh, this is happening because we added a new SFTP inbound configuration for Circuit Express to poll a new SFTP location. So as you can see here, we are not deploying a new SFTP application for each endpoint configuration, right? It's a one application that can dynamically poll multiple different endpoints. So you're not you don't have to worry about your vCore allocation and everything just because you're adding hundreds of partners with SFTP inbound configuration. So all of that is automatically handled by the product. So what Partner Manager is right now working on is to update this app to inject the new SFTP polling configuration for this Circuit Express, and and that is what it is currently working on. So it's going to, as you know, it's going to probably take 2-3 minutes to complete. While it is working, I'm going to be going in to Partner Manager to create our outbound purchase order acknowledgement flow, right? So it is
Yeah.
going to be a send to partner. So again, the this is all going to be very
This is like the
consistent and
fourth one,
similar.
right? The last one in the list.
Correct. So we are
Yeah.
basically creating this outbound PO ACK
Outbound
flow for Secure Express. So here, so the previous flow that we created is an inbound coming from the partner. So here it's
partner.
the source is going to be the backend, your process API. So here you
Hmm.
can expose a HTTP endpoint. So and you can expose one single endpoint that is actually processing different types of data, and for different types of partner. You don't have to create one endpoint for each of your message type or each of your partner, which will
Hmm.
basically not a good practice to follow. So I'm selecting this endpoint, which is running on this URL. So obviously you also have the ability to manage that endpoint using API Manager, for instance. If you want to apply policies and managing client credentials, you can also deploy it into the HTTPS private port. If you want to use uh, make it available for call only from within your VPC, or if you're using a DLB to manage traffic into that application. So here, this app already exists. So I'm going to be simply selecting this outbound source. So this is the endpoint through which I already have 51 message flows using this endpoint to get data of different kind and type going to different partners. So you select that, and the outbound purchase order acknowledgement is going to come in a standard, like no matter whether it's going to Circuit Express or going to the other customers in EDI or other formats. So
Hmm.
what is coming from the backend for purchase order acknowledgement or invoice or any other application format is going to be standard. So I'm just selecting that as the as the as this thing. And you will see that dynamically this URL has changed to show that the backend process API has to basically post that JSON message into this endpoint, so that we pick up this relative path of the URL and understand that, hey, this is the outbound purchase order acknowledgement, and route the data accordingly. And the next step is to basically select the reference identifier of the partner. So as you can see here, so this is the endpoint through which all of the PO acknowledgements going to all of the partners is going to get posted. How do we determine which partner is getting the data, and which is critical, because if it's going to partner A, we need to convert into an X12 it's going to partner C, we need to convert into a JSON, right? So
Jason.
for partner manager to understand that which map to apply, you need to select, hey, if it's a PO ACK from coming from SAP that is going to Circuit Express, use this configuration to route the data. You can optionally put in, if there are multiple lines of business sending the data, you can ignore it. The next step is to, now we have a purchase order acknowledgement data coming in as a JSON message from the backend, and we need to convert that into uh, an XML for Circuit Express. And this is, I have this map that converts this JSON into a circuit breaker purchase order XML message. So I select that as my map here, and there is the message type. So this is going to be a circuit PO ACK XML. So here you only see the message types that are defined as send to partners, right? So we know what stage of the configuration you are in as a developer, and we show only the relevant message types that are applicable for that particular stage of the flow. And now, as we can see, what do we do with that XML message that is translated? You will select the endpoint through which we need to send it back to the customer. So we have this Circuit Express PO ACK XML uh, that with this specific naming convention that we just created. So you select that as the endpoint. So let's see where we are with that. Okay, so now you see that this previous message flow for the PO XML has been deployed.
Deployed.
You will also see that the inbound SFTP application has successfully started. So it now is going to start polling that folder. So while we are kind of working on that, let me go and deploy this POAC message flow also.
Hmm.
So now, as you can imagine, we are introducing a new outbound SFTP configuration to deliver something back to Circuit Express. So as you can probably imagine, this is going to redeploy the outbound SFTP application now, because
Hmm.
the outbound SFTP application needs to know the uh, the information about Circuit Express's outbound POAC uh, endpoint for SFTP, right? Um,
Yep.
is there any questions while we're waiting for this deployment to complete? And once it is done, I know we are pretty much at time, but
Yeah.
I think we are going to be
Like,
able to finish it.
yes. We do have one question that's from
Mhm.
Richa. Like, can you quickly show us the data view file used to convert XML to JSON and JSON to XML? Even I had the same question actually.
Sure, it is. I can. I don't have Studio open right now, but then I think probably it's okay to show it here. Um, so this is the data view that we have for converting this XML to JSON. I think I have a couple of these fields, the variables that are not applicable for data view playground. Um, you can build it in Studio. You can build it kind of wherever you want. But this is one of the examples. And also, while we are here, I will also show what we have available in Anypoint Exchange. So if you go to
Yeah.
Anypoint Exchange and search for, I think this is something that I think Akshata covered in the previous stream as
Yeah.
well. So you have the order to cash mapping examples,
Nothing example.
where you have a variety of examples. If you want to look at EDI to JSON, JSON to EDI, it also contains XML. So the
Hmm.
same map that we are using here is also available here. So you can download this project, open it up in Studio, and use that as a baseline and tweak it as needed for your
Mm-hmm.
actual requirements. Going back, and I'll just flash it here, right? So this is basically the mapping. So this is my input. This is my map to convert that XML purchase order into a JSON purchase order. And this is our output that is going to go to that process API after the translation is done. I
Cool.
hope that
That was really
answered
cool.
the
And
question.
accelerators and all really help. And we have so many accelerators for different functionality. They're really cool for beginners.
Yeah, and what I'm going to go is I'm going to just check on this outbound SFTP application. And as you
Mm-hmm.
can see here, that application is now being deployed. So we will wait for that to finish. And in the meantime, I'm going to just prepare to send the data into the SFTP server here.
Okay.
Okay. Okay. So I'm going to prepare a PO XML here. So right now, just going to be putting some. I think I named this last night, assuming that this is the time when I will end up placing the file, and I think I was spot on, 10 o'clock my time. And I'm going to be opening up this data to kind of, okay, it has this as the PO number. I'm going to, uh, oops, going to replace that with, let's say, let's call this PO number as Twitch. Oops. I'm just going to call this as Mule Demo 101 as the order
Mm-hmm.
number. And I'm going to be putting that here too. And save that. And this app is still getting deployed. So it's going to take a while. I think
Yeah.
it's almost there, and we need to really wait for this status to change to deployed. So
Right.
this Partner Manager deployment process is waiting for CloudUp to send the green signal after this app gets
Mm-hmm.
deployed, so that the message flow gets activated. And from the
Yeah.
time the message
Also,
flow gets activated, it can take up to 5 minutes for it to actually be propagated into the document processing service as a valid message flow. We'll just wait for this to finish. But I
yeah.
think since we already have the inbound message flow, I'm just going to just drop this updated file into the SFTP location, into that folder. Um, I just want to make sure I'm saving this. I'm going to be taking this XML and dropping it in that folder.
Hold on.
Um, Hopefully, assuming that I did everything correct, it should work.
Let's cross.
So we have defined this to be polled every 30 seconds in the configuration. So we will wait for that
30
to
seconds.
happen. And
Yeah.
you can also, what you can do is you can go to the inbound SFTP app, and in the logs you basically get to see what endpoints are being polled. Like for example, at this time, this endpoint was polled and there was no file return.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's still not going to work because I'll tell you why. If we remember the configuration for this partner, uh, we wanted the files starting with order and ending with XML.
Yeah.
And obviously, the file
And
that I dropped,
configure.
it did not have it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to rename that file. Oops, it's
Mm.
ordered. Okay. So now I'm going to be dropping this one. Hopefully this will get picked up now.
Yeah.
So as you can see here, I hope it's okay to run maybe 5 minutes over
Yeah. That's fine.
to
This is
finish it off.
interesting.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. I think
So
it picked it
now,
up.
yeah, no, not yet. So I just dropped it. So in the 10:02 run, it didn't pick up any files, and hopefully it will get picked up. So now that
Yeah.
ordered file is gone, the other one is still on the folder. So basically, the file naming pattern that we are putting in that thing. So now here, the Circuit Express. So we have one file processed into the system, right?
Mm.
And what you can do now is you can go here into the activity, and you see that there is a purchase order data from Circuit Express that was picked up and processed. You can also see the PO number that we used in the file, the Mule demo 101. You can also see that here. So you can now get into the details of this message. So we configured in the original mapping that we put in the message type, we wanted the file name and the buyer's email and the purchase order number to be extracted. So you can see that those information are available here. And you can also see the XML file that we dropped in the SFTP folder. And you can see the translated JSON message that it produced after it went through the translation. Pretty much kind of the end-to-end thing. Uh, I'll just so here I go to my Slack where the process API is configured to drop create an order in SAP and then send a message in a Slack channel. So you can see that pretty much instantaneously that message was received in the Slack channel. And the beauty of Partner Manager is like you can actually propagate all the message ID and all these metadata information in Partner Manager into your backend process API. So which makes it easy to even like if you want to send a message to someone, whether it's a failure or whether it's successful, and if somebody wants to kind of open up that message, you can actually make use of the platform APIs and the whole thing to take people directly into the actual message. Um, this could be of this could be handy in certain cases. So I'm going
Okay.
to go here and copy this SAP order number, and I'm going to
Mm-hmm.
be logging into SAP just to make sure that order got created without any issues. So I'm going to be going to the sales, dropping in that order number, and okay. So you have kind of this PO number with this Mule demo 101, and there are 4 items. So there's first item is of quantity 32. If I go back to my XML, so this is my first item. There's 2032 quantity of some antenna is being ordered or some product, and there is 80 quantity of this antenna one. So you basically kind of we just dropped this XML purchase order data in the SFTP location, and in a matter of few seconds, it created an order in SAP. Now coming back to Partner Manager, so you're now in the so you actually, I think the POAC process also got deployed and worked. So you can now see that there is an outbound purchase order acknowledgement that came from the process API. So here, the backend sent a JSON message, and because it was a POAC going to Circuit Express, Partner Manager knew that it has to be converted into an XML message using that mapping that we updated. So if it was going to a Walmart or if it is going to a different customer, maybe we would have updated an X12 or a Edifact or another JSON or CSV map. So basically, based on the configuration and the routing information, it applies the data view transformation dynamically. And here, that POAC JSON that came from the backend got converted into this custom XML that Circuit Express wanted the data to be in. And now, if you go back
Mm-hmm.
to the from Mythical, you see the POAC XML with the exact same file naming pattern that we configured in the outbound endpoint, starting with this POAC underscore the customer name and a timestamp. And we also put in the business key, which is nothing but the order number. And you also see that in the file name with the extension that we had put. So it basically covered a full end-to-end thing. And let's just to make it interesting, I'm going to be uh, changing this to 102, and let's do just one more time, and we're going to be done in a moment.
Yep.
Just want to make sure it's saved. And so you have these information, right? Like the order number, and you can copy that. And the same attribute is also defined in the outbound purchase order acknowledgement as well. So you can search for that particular attribute, uh, for instance, and it's going to bring up all the transactions associated with that order number. And one last thing that I will probably kind of show before we wrap up here is that you can take this transmission ID, for example, and as we all know, kind of this basically started in an SFTP connection. It went through a bunch of applications within Partner Manager, and it called the Process API System API. When you have this transmission ID, you can
Mm-hmm.
actually go to Anypoint Monitoring and search for that transmission ID, which will basically give a full end-to-end traceability of the transaction. So I just dropped it, and I'm going to be reverse sorting it. So you see that this inbound SFTP app basically went to the SFTP location to grab that file. So you can see the file name and all those things. And you also actually are able to trace the transaction, like as it went through the transformation from XML to JSON. And then there are some HTTP wire logging enabled. So you see too much information that you normally wouldn't. But then like it called the process API, and the process API is calling the SAP system API, and this is your BAPI call that is going into SAP. And then after the successful call, you have the sales order number created in SAP for that order. And then pretty much you can trace the whole end-to-end transaction starting from your edge SFTP endpoint all the way through your backend integrations and interactions. I think that's pretty much it. I just dropped in that second 102 PO. I hopefully it should be processed already. or maybe I didn't update the copy in the
Yeah.
here, but that's okay. So I think that's pretty much it. I know we went 10 minutes over. I hope the team found it valuable. And just to wrap things up, if you are someone that is kind of working with one of our SI partners, we are happy to share that we launched a formal learning course in the partner learning camp that most of you
Mm-hmm.
should have access to. So you can search for Partner Manager, and it gives you a lot of information to get started with some initial overview and also a demonstration use case that with all the relevant links and resources. So you can use those information to actually set up Partner Manager in your own Anypoint organization account. So, and there are a few kind of resources that you can maybe scan, or I think you guys have seen a lot of these already uh,
Yeah.
to further your learning of Anypoint Partner Manager. With that, I think, I don't know, maybe is there any question that we can answer, or maybe we can just answer them on the LinkedIn
Uh,
channel later. But
yeah.
yeah,
There's just one question. I mean, not a question. Can you just share the partner manager link, the training link, or the workshop link in the comments?
sure. Yeah, I'm going to be, I think I will stop
Yeah.
sharing for now.
Mm-hmm. You can share with me.
Okay.
Even.
Yeah.
Yeah. Got it. Okay. So this is available only for partners, right?
Yeah, it is available for partners and new Salesforce employees can access to.
Okay.
But we are
Amazing.
actually kind of working on putting something in Trailhead too that will be accessible
Yeah.
for everyone. It's going to take a while,
So,
but it's something that is a top priority for us.
okay, but for beginners, I guess mule documentation would be more than enough, right? I mean, to get started, get onboarded.
Hmm.
Great.
Yeah,
Other than that, there's one question from Richa. Does it require additional licenses to its available to use with default enterprise? Yep.
yeah, it is an add-on, and requires additional licensing.
Hmm.
If you want to try out the product, you can reach out to your account executive. They should be able
Mm-hmm.
to maybe provide access. But
Yep.
for production use, it requires additional licenses.
For the MuleSoft community, guys, if they want to try out Inbound Partner Manager, is there a way we can help them?
If they are part of one of our SI partners, their Anypoint account, most of them I know they have enabled Partner Manager, or if not, they can work with their channels and alliances point of contact to get Partner Manager added to their Anypoint account. So they would be logging into their organization's Anypoint account and try things out.
Okay, amazing. I think we have shared all the links. If you're someone who's like a beginner and want to get started, you can watch a previous stream as well, in which I've shown like how do you configure the basic stuff, basic message flows, the endpoints, and everything. And our documentation, MuleSoft documentation, is like more than sufficient for you to get started. If you have any queries, you can just leave them on our stream, and we can get back to you.
Yeah,
Uh, yeah, thank you. You can follow us on Twitch. We'll be here. Alex will be here next time uh, with new Twitch stream. You can watch our recordings as well. Uh, if you're joining from LinkedIn or anywhere else, you can join us on LinkedIn. And yeah, that's all. Is there anything you want to add, Vijayan?
no, I think nothing much. And
No.
you guys want to try, and if you have any feedback, you can find me on LinkedIn or through
LinkedIn,
other
yeah,
means, and I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have.
absolutely. Yeah. Thank you for joining us and such a wonderful demo. It was like great collaborating with you.
Definitely,
Yeah,
we need to do
thanks.
more of this. So
We need to, of
let's,
course.
yeah.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you and
All
bye.
right. Thank you, everyone.
Yeah.
Bye. Have a good weekend.
Bye.
Bye.
Yes.